Oh, hey Pete. Wasn't expecting you so soon. Um, you know me, I'm Dave Jensen. Um, I guess as a precursor, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm 20 years old and I've been here for about 36 months. I guess beyond that, you've got some questions. I guess we'll start there. That was really out of character for me. I was raised by a nice Baptist family in Texas. Hook 'em. Um, I've got three older brothers, so of course we bickered, but none of us had ever dared to throw punch under the watchful eyes of our father. Um, we were well raised boys, but I come here and the war changes you, it blinds you, man, and a split second you black out and you wake up with a swollen fist and a guilty conscience. It's hard to detach human emotions from an event like that. Seeing your friend blown to pieces before your eyes. We all found a way in the war to play around with the dead and make us forget the tragedies. When Kurt first joined the regiment, we all gave him grief for a name like Lemon, asking him if he was from Florida. When I was picking up the remnants of Kurt, all I could think of was this song I heard back home. And in a way, it was written for Nam. I've got a bit of it written down here. The refrain goes, "Lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat." If that doesn't describe war, I don't know what will. I'm a pretty relaxed man, but there were days I had to remind myself who I was and why I was there. Some days I needed more reminding than others. I grew up in a church with my parents, going every Sunday and participating each week. I fell out of touch with that side of myself when I got shipped over here. It didn't take long, though, for Kiowa and his spiritual side to point me upwards again. When Kiowa passed, that's when I lost it. I thought I'd run away or dive in the mush, forget how to swim back up. Like I said before, I try to be an honest man. I have always and will always believe that a man's name carries more weight than anything I carried in Vietnam. His word to do as he says, that's something you can't top. I knew I would crack eventually under the dilemma of a promise or a dying man's last wish. And not just any man. This is Lee we're talking about, my best bud. I think in the end, I would have had to stick true to my word. That or take myself out, I guess. I can't tell you how happy I was the day I found out I didn't have to make that decision. Excuse me 1 minute. I gotta take my pills. They're high carotene pills. They help with my eyesight, but seem to be out. Anyways, I think war has stood to sharpen up my edges a bit, if that makes sense. Mama always told me I was like a ball of dough, soft to the touch and very impressionable. I'm afraid I'm going to go home and she won't recognize me. And this stale loaf of bread I've become. Strunk and I, we had our rough patches, but in the end, I really grew to love the guy. He had a sense of humor that let me fly free a little bit each day. Because war fights so hard to keep you grounded all the time. Of course, I was relieved to not be losing any more sleep over the position it had put me in, but a day doesn't go by where I don't miss him just a little bit. And Tim told me one day, maybe after Kiowa went missing or something, that there's no blame in the war. I mean, everyone can trace a line a certain way and point it back at themselves, but in a way, by us all being guilty, that also means it's none of our faults. I didn't come to the war looking for buddies. I would have kicked and screamed and thrown a tantrum if it meant I could stay home with my buddies back in Texas. But, you know, I was really blessed getting placed where I did. I consider all these men some of my closest friends, simply because they have the balls to survive this and still live to see the next day. It's what I needed most to see coming here. And I've seen that each and every day, in every single one of them. I know that doesn't really answer your question, I'm sorry about that, but that's how I see it. My grandpa lived on a farm when I was a boy, so I grew up around the farm life. And you can't really come to care for the animals too much. No, you can't. You don't befriend the guy you share a hospital bed with for a night in the war. Because once you learn his name, you're connected. Him dying the next morning can't be in your head by the time you're back on the line. They teach you all this mental stuff in basic training, and I've had to learn to live by it. The calf wasn't any different. Once you start to name them, and you look into their big puppy dog eyes, that's when you're screwed. Especially if rats nearby. Dobbins is a good kid. Always trying to lighten the mood, but in a respectable way. Not like guys are. But in that moment, I thought I was gonna shoot him in the thigh. It can always be worse, but that doesn't mean Kiowa didn't deserve just a moment of our silence and recognition. I wouldn't say the same for just anyone, but this is Kiowa we're talking. I wasn't the biggest guy in the platoon. I wasn't the strongest or the smartest or even the best looking. I didn't really have much to set me apart from any of the other guys. But I wasn't going to go into that war as some nameless face from the Lone Star State. The moment we left basic training, I told myself I'd live by the philosophies they taught us. That I'd return home to a proud family. That dead man seemed to be my passage in. In my head, as I shook his hand, I heard him say, "Nam, here comes Dave."